Hello, everybody. It's JB from Live Exceptional, and I am so excited to be going all the way over to the other side of the world this morning to share with you with a very good friend of mine, Rosalyn Palmer. She is in the heart of London, England, heart of England.
Heart of England in Nottinghamshire. So I'm in Newark-on-Trent. I look out onto an 11th century castle.
Oh my goodness. So how cool is that? You know, at Live Exceptional, we are all living exceptional in our own way. And so living in the heart of England, tell me what that's like right now with so much exciting stuff happening in England, the royal family, the marriage that just happened this year. Is there like a kind of a buzz of, patriotism?
I think there is, but then unfortunately it's underpinned by the whole Brexit thing. So I've made a real rule not to watch the news or listen to the news. I get a real great publication called The Week that summarizes all the news every week. So I like to be abreast of what's going on, but I don't like to be obsessed by it. And unfortunately, we are rather obsessed by Brexit at the moment because I suppose it's quite a big deal for the country and we don't really know what that looks like. But we've just had a long, hot summer. We had the royal wedding. On the whole, apart from the Brexit thing, people are feeling really great. It's been lovely here. I live right on the river. There's canal boats going past me. I think people really feel they've been replenished this year. It's been really great.
Well, it's really amazing that you say that because, a lot of people that I talk to who are living exceptional don't like to listen to the news and don't get wrapped up in that negative messaging that's sort of coming out of the media. And so many people I've talked to, people, obviously wrapped up in what's happening with Trump, wrapped up what's happening in Korea. There's all kinds of things. Even in Canada, we just have all these issues with the pipeline. And part of really being in that exceptional mind frame is really not buying into what's happening in the masses. And so you're kind of doing that yourself. You're really involved in sort of growing that personal spirit. You want to tell my viewers a little bit more about you?
Well, absolutely. So, hi. I came up in the 90s through some of the top PR agencies in London. Then I had my own top PR agency in London, which was award-winning. I looked like I had it all going on. I'm really not somebody from that side of the tracks. I went to, I suppose, what you'd call a public school. There were 3,000 in my school. My parents were shopkeepers. I lived above the shop when I was very young. But I was always very driven. For example, I was the Girl Guide representative for Nottingham when the Queen came, and I had my own radio program at 15 years of age. So although I came from very humble working class background, I was very driven. I had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So I founded my own PR agency in the 90s. It became award-winning. I sold it after 9 years. I moved to the Bahamas, which obviously sounds incredible, and it was in many ways, but my life imploded. My life absolutely imploded. I went from an 8-bedroom house in London and a nanny and a chauffeur and all the trappings of success to my father having a stroke, to me having breast cancer, to my mother getting terminal pancreatic cancer, adopting some quite challenging children, and my ex losing a lot of our life savings. And that happened in quite a short period of time. So it completely imploded my life. But in the 90s, when I ran my PR agency, I had clients who you might have heard of. So I had a very large guy called Tony Robbins. I had Edward de Bono. So I was a bit of a go-to PR agent for the who's who in the personal development world. So I'd done NLP, I'd done coaching, I even did some hypnotherapy. And I met Marissa Peer very early on in Hawaii, Maui. So I had this amazing grounding in personal development, in knowing who you are. So when my life did implode, I was able to come through it, really.
That's fantastic. And so just back up for a second and thank you for sharing your story. It's so incredible because I use the word implode a lot too about what happened to me. And my heart just immediately, skipped and woke up and was listening so intently to you because I think so many people have that moment of implosion where it looks like life is grand and we have it all, and yet under the surface, or just so close to the surface, it's just crumbling. And there's that moment where you really had to wake up. And so did you have that defining day moment experience where you was like, I know that everything needs to change in my life at this moment?
Absolutely. The cancer was the greatest gift I ever got, ever, bar none. I had left, this world that looked amazing and this amazing house, an 8-bedroom house in London. But I was very unhappy for a long time. I was wearing a mask, the mask of the perfect PR person, the happy-go-lucky person. I was exhausted. I'd get up at 6 and go to the gym. I wouldn't get home till late. I was drinking too much. I developed bulimia to keep the weight off. There were I was doing a lot of really good things, like I was having Ayurvedic medicine and massage and reading all my self-help books and listening to Tony's stuff over and over again. But they were like sticking plasters on what was really a crumbling foundation. And so when I got to the Bahamas, I think I thought, oh, phew, I've dodged a bullet. It's okay. And then after a couple of years, no, I hadn't dodged a bullet. My father had the stroke back in England, then I found I had the breast cancer, then my mother got her cancer, and then the financial loss. And so everything that had formed my former identity, my ego, my image, my house, my marriage, went. And of course, I was very focused on the cancer. I turned down chemotherapy and we moved to an out island in the Bahamas called Eleuthera, which means freedom in Greek. It's where Lenny Kravitz lives. It's really cool. But it's really a very poor island. Most of the people there are drug dealers or people who are like the disassociated. You get the kind of winter residents from America, but it was a very strange place. But I rented a 10-acre organic farm on a pink sand beach with 1,000 palm trees. And I had...
Of course you did.
So
right? I want to just stop you there. Like, when something really profound happens, that 1% goes like all out, like you went all out, a 10-acre farm on a pink beach.
Right.
Love
Yeah,
it.
nothing else is ever going to be the same again. So this isn't. I wanted to be in charge of my cancer journey. I went to the Moffitt Cancer Clinic in Tampa. It was amazing, but I had surgery. I had radiation. Today, I'm not sure I would. I turned all the chemo down. And I called it Eleuthera therapy. I got up with the sun. I went to bed with the sun. I distilled my own noni juice. And in fact, it was one of the happiest, most spiritually uplifting, amazing times of my life. I didn't listen to anything negative. I only watched positive movies. I read. I learned I could paint. I walked the beach. It was, incredible. But then I discovered that there was financial loss, and really my marriage, the elastic around our relationship just couldn't hold it any longer. And my mum was dying. I came back to the UK, a single mother with 2 adopted children, living in a rented house in my hometown after having left an 8-bedroom house and a PR company. So, I think the loss of ego, I really had to take the mask off, but it changed everything.
It's really beautiful. Now, I can really relate to your story, and that part where, you're working and you're making money and you're driving the car and you're wearing the fur and you're carrying the purse, and everyone is sort of patting you on your head like you're doing such a good job, you're making so much money, you're doing so good in the world. But you go home and you close your door and you're dying inside. Everyone keeps saying you're doing a good job. I always say that, like, everyone was patting me on the head like, oh, you're making so much money, you're doing a great job. But I'd go home and I was just like, everything about me wasn't working. And I think that's a trap that a lot of women get into in our society, when you are successful because you're making money, or you're successful because you're doing something in your business, but your spirit is hurting so much.
And I knew that mismatch, and it hurt me so much for so long. I obviously had to work to a point where I could sell the business, because I didn't want to just walk away. But even that like took everything up a level. So those last couple of years in the business in the late 90s in London was so tricky, and I'd adopted a child. It was when I came home one Friday and I realized that I had not seen my son awake since Monday. That I've had many aha moments, but that was definitely one of them. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And so we did get out. We sold the business, and I thought I'd dodged a bullet, but I didn't. The cancer came because of all that stress and everything that had happened. But as I say, although at the time it was a bit of a shock, I had this really profound dream the week I got the diagnosis, and it was me who'd found the cancer because I'd had the all clear previously. And I had this dream that I was hanging onto a precipice and that somebody was stepping on my fingers and somebody was just shouting, let go, over and over again. And in the end, I let go, and I never had such a feeling of peace. And so that whole journey, when people go, oh, you're battling cancer or you're a cancer sufferer, I never use that vocabulary ever. I never used it. It was something that happened. It was a wake up for me. It was an incredibly spiritual time. I came back. I had to reinvent myself. I joined a training and development company as head of marketing because that was my background. And then I ended up being head of marketing and communications for an international charity, leprosy mission. So I went to some of the most remote and the most poorest places in Africa and Asia, because these are the most marginalized people possibly in the world. And it was so humbling, so rewarding, so amazing that I just felt like everything, all that implosion had been a gift, really.
Yeah, and I think that, so some people watching this will be like, well, wow, that none of that is happening to me, and like they'll just relate to your story as being yours. And I think what I want to impress upon people is we all have those moments where we're working towards something that we think we want, and we sometimes get there, but the cost and the price of being there is so taxing or unhealthy for us.
And I see people now all the time walk through my door as a therapist in exactly that place.
Right. And so for our viewers, I want to just impress upon two things. One, what was the moment? Because I've done a lot of studying about the resiliency factor. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, you get punched in the stomach and you just get back up. And I'm like, yeah, I did that for years. I took the punches in the stomach and just got back up. Now I'm learning like I'm deflecting them. Like, it's no more getting punched in the stomach. It's like, I'm like, they don't happen anymore because I've been working on defense and working on that spiritual journey. But there is that resiliency moment where people are like, I can give up and go into victim and go into self-pity or go into resigning to cancer and dying, or what you did, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do the opposite. And I want to just question you, was that resiliency moment conscious, unconscious? Was it something that came to you? Was it training? Was it your upbringing? What made you take that turn?
I think it's a combination of all the above. I think that dream, because I've always had a very almost supernatural side to me that actually got shut down. The more money I made, the faster the life I was living, the more I felt a disconnect to that very spiritual, very centered person. And that hurt me. I didn't like that. I didn't quite know what to do about it. I felt that come back in droves. I had a lot of amazing coincidental synchronicity type dreams and visions, and the journey just felt right. I kind of relaxed into it. But I think all that early work I did in the 90s with people like Tony Robbins, I'd actually been a client of Marissa Peer's. I'd worked I became an NLP practitioner. Plus my upbringing, I was a grocer's daughter, and, I had great parents, and my parents' one worked in a mill and the others went down the mine, so I came from very hard-working, working class, but fundamentally solid kind of family. So I think you call on all of that, all of that there's a great saying, poem, strong trees do not grow with ease, the stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. And I started to have great insight into some of the things that had happened in my life. For example, in my 20s, I was attacked in a car park and I managed to get away, and it was quite a nasty attack, but I got away. 10 years later, I saw a photo fit on a newspaper, and it turned out to be Britain's largest serial rapist who abducted women, superglued their eyes together, did unspeakable things, took them off in their own cars. And I contacted Scotland Yard, and they did an investigation, and they said that I was probably one of only 3 who were credible because I knew things, and that I was one of only 2 women who'd ever got away. And so there was something within me, because I think I was only about 24 at that time. There was some fighting spirit, which probably came from my upbringing, came from my family, because that was before I did all the Tony Robbins stuff. That was in my 30s. So it's all those things, you know, we're all a work in progress. You know, I as you know, we met at A-Fest. You know, I invested so much in myself last year. I still do. I did Lifebook. I've done A-Fest. You know, I just think we're always a blueprint that can be improved, really.
And that's really great advice, because a lot of times when crisis comes about, we focus on the crisis. You know, we get so wrapped up in the problem. We get so, you know, like, what happened to you? You had cancer. You know, you could just be fixated in that experience. And instead, what you just described was really getting connected to who you were before the crisis, before the label, before the moment. You know, I have the same, you know, lived with a very abusive partner, but there was a part of JV who was really amazing and strong and all of that before I got into that one experience that was traumatic. And if we can impress upon those listening, like when you have a crisis in your life, what you just shared, getting really connected with who you were from all of those grounded, solid, you know, incredible core-like qualities of you to help you through it. I think that's beautiful.
I have a bracelet. It says, all I need is within me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I work with a lot of people who want to find their joy, want to find their life purpose. And really, it's about allowing them to trust that guidance that, you know, there is a stronger core usually within people than they realize. Often there's a perfect storm of things that went on, like with myself, with divorce, with cancer, with loss. And it is a perfect storm, and it is not fun coming through it. And I wouldn't add any facile thing about, you know, what doesn't break you makes you stronger. Sometimes I've had a few nights of the dark soul. I was on antidepressants for 3.5 years. I was on sleeping tablets for 6. I was bulimic. You know, I've had some things that were not such great coping strategies as the things like Ayurvedic medicine and the massage and the spirituality. I've had a hodgepodge of both, but now, particularly as a therapist and a coach, I'm a lot clearer about what it looks like to actually navigate both the good times and the bad.
Yeah, and the bad, you know, I'm with you too. Like, I wouldn't trade my terror and horror for, you know, anything, because it's brought me to where I am right now. And I think a lot of people want to find an answer. You know, we go through life a little bit on robot, a little bit, you know, for the beacon of success and money and wealth. And then we get to that place where we realize, like, there's more to it than this. And what you said, it is from within. And so that within power that helps us get through our darkness really is the same absolute thing that helps us reach our success and our enlightenment and our empowerment. And so you've got some pretty fabulous things going on right now. Let's just shift gears and remember, anything that inner you that brings you to your through your storm is the same thing that's going to bring you to your celebration. And you know, I always make a joke about, I like to live in the pink world on the pink mountain with my pink clouds.
I've seen the pictures.
Right. And so that same fortitude that's in you to, you know, climb out of the hole is the same one that helps you climb up the mountain. And so let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing since, and thank you again for sharing that incredible story. I love learning more about my very closest friends that I party with and I hang out with, and we change the world together, but sometimes we don't always know their story. So thank you for sharing.
No, thank you. So
Hmm.
yeah, in the last 12 months, I went to my second A Fest. My first A Fest, I felt quite disconnected. I didn't feel happy. I think that was when I met you, coincidentally. I think I wasn't in a great place. I was going through my second divorce. I was about to move house. I was selling my villa, which I loved in Spain. There was a lot of loss going on. But I had the good sense or the wherewithal to go again and to go, look, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to do all those things that I tell people to do. I'm going to just be open to it. And it was about love and relationships. I became very clear that was what I really wanted again in my life. I then went to Lifebook in Barcelona. Again, I went kind of a bit, I don't know why I'm here, which I have a tendency to do. I'll sign up for an expensive course and then go along the first day going, I don't know why I've come, which is, funny, but it's true. And yet I had a profound experience that I'd been trying to reclaim in my life rather than reimagine and take it forward. I was trying to gain what was lost. Some of those monetary things and things that were there, and 2 marriages, and I realized, no, I need to go beyond. I need to see myself as being formed out of new clay and go beyond. And I really worked on manifesting love. And I have. I'm very happy to say I'm with a grown up now. It's amazing. We're just having a wonderful relationship. We can talk about everything. It's just amazing. It really does feel like a twin flame experience, which is really lovely. And I've got a book which is being published in 2 days' time. So
I know we're in on the scoop before the scoop. So I want to talk about the book, absolutely.
yeah.
What I want to also say is I did meet you, and you were, you were just coming to a new place. You were changing. There was lots of shifting going on with you, but you had this spirit, and you had this drive to find some answers. You were investing in you. You weren't sitting on the sidelines waiting for it to come, waiting for a book to fall from heaven on your head and wake you up. You were taking the time to really invest in you, and you didn't have the answers. And I think that is a really important thing for many people to realize is we don't know what is going to come of it, but we believe that something will. And I always say, if whatever course, whatever program, whatever book you do, if you get one great idea, just one super nugget from it, that puts you in an incredible new trajectory that is so worth it. So for anyone watching this and sitting there thinking like, I can't do that, or that's not me, or I don't have those resources, or you ladies sound like you've got it all together. No. But what we did do was, we, not knowing, I was the same. I showed up in AFES Mexico sort of scooching along the wall, and I'm not a wallflower at all, but that's an intimidating environment. And I remember I knew I had to be there. I knew I had to get there, but I didn't know what was going to come of it. But I was just totally invested in improving and changing my life. And that's exactly the same thing you said. And so I just want to impress upon anyone watching this, wherever you are in your life, just decide that you're going to do whatever it takes and do the work, because it is work. There's no free ride.
No, it's absolutely right. But and sometimes I've had other people see more in me than I've even seen in myself. I mean, Marissa Peer invited me to be one of her absolute first trained therapists in rapid transformational therapy. She reached out and said, Ros, I think you'll make a great therapist. I was a bit like, really? I know I've had a lot of therapy. Woo. Actually, I find I did have a lot of transferable skills from my PR and marketing, and then the NLP and all the background. So that came at a great time, because that was when I was going through that time with the second divorce and etc. So sometimes there is, the universe gives you a break as well. That was definitely one that happened for me. But I had to seize it. I seized it with both hands, and I did a lot of study, at a time when I was kind of getting through the week a bit and had a son at home, and but I went for it, and I did, and it was a lifesaver. So it was a lifeline, but I had the good sense to grab onto it and let it be a lifesaver. And then over and over again, people kept saying to me, you should write a book. I'm really glad I never wrote the book before, because I had to arrive at a place where I was able to add the therapeutic understanding I have with my own journey. Not that it ever would have been angry or bitter, because I don't do that. It's not who I am. But it's so much better a book for never having been written before, if that makes sense. It just
Mm-hmm.
came out of me. It
Mm-hmm.
was so cathartic. It just flowed. It was the right thing in the right time.
And so, do you have a copy?
I do. I think I've got one in my bag. Hang on.
Come on, we want to see it, because, you know, it's
Yeah.
so incredible when somebody has the ability to sit down and share their thoughts and put together, you know, a compilation and be vulnerable and share their life and then share their wisdom. Let's see it. Oh,
It's very, very vulnerable. It is very vulnerable. Marissa has very kindly written a beautiful foreword, a testimonial in it, which is really saying everything we've talked about Rosalyn has lived a life where on the outside it's looked amazing and enviable, yet on the inside it has been a struggle. But the life lessons and wisdom she's gained in her interesting life have taught her that changing your attitude is something that begins with what you do and then becomes who you are.
oh,
And I
beautiful.
think that is, you know, and there's a lot more, but I'm really very proud as well that the people who've reviewed it, or the early reviewers and some of the journalists looking at it, said it's well written as well. So I like to pride myself that my background in communications, I actually also have a newspaper column. So here's another example of the way I've taken a chance and being vulnerable. I moved house. My other house after the divorce was too big. I chose to move to this town because I wanted to live by the water. I'm looking out on a canal and I think a 13th century bridge one way and fields, and an 11th century castle the other way. I moved to a town where I didn't know anybody. Within 6 months, I have a radio show, I have a newspaper column, I have wonderful networks of friends and girlfriends. I wake up to the sound of running water every day. I realize that's really important for me. And you know, now I have this amazing book and I'm talking to you, and it's just, you know, it's, yeah. And a lot of that came from being vulnerable.
Amen. And so, where can we get your book when it's ready to be launched?
Well, I think you can literally get it now. It's on Amazon.
Fantastic.
So you get it on Amazon, or you can go to my book website, which is www.resetyourjoy.com, or you can find me on rosalynpalmer.com. And yeah, there's many ways of getting it. I'm about to record the audio version, and there's also a Kindle version that's out, I think, next week. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I will post all of that information for people to get on the website, and they can see it after the interview. Yeah, I want to know, was there a moment writing the book where you know, I know a lot of us have a book in us. Was there self-doubt? Was there, you know, did you have a beacon that sort of pushed you through those moments where the chapters got tough?
I went to a weekend incubator called the Book Midwife, because I realized I'd been talking about the book for a long time and I felt kind of overwhelmed about it. And that was good because it was like a boot camp, and they were like, just write a chapter, you know, just give me the outline. And I was being held accountable. I then found that the book flowed from me. But there's a great quote, I think it's from Mark Twain, which is, "I'm sorry I wrote you such a long letter, I didn't have time to write a short one."
Beautiful. I love that.
And I basically kind of, whoa, and it was like, I said to my publisher, I went, "Oh, it's great, I've written like nearly 70,000 words." She was like, "We only want 50.
Yeah.
And then I actually really struggled with editing it at that time, because, you know, you're so close to it. And I kept thinking, oh, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that. So in the end, I actually did have to involve, you know, the publisher editor, who was ruthless and was like, well, we're losing this, we're losing that. So yeah, I think the time was right for me to do it. I did find the editing down and the restructuring it more tricky than actually the writing of it.
Very interesting. I love that you said that. I mean, the universe is so beautiful because I've been working on my book and I'm past the halfway point, and I've got my word count at the bottom of the page, and now that you've said that, I'm like, oh, do I have to I better oh, I've only got 20,000 words left and I'm just at the halfway mark.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I struggled at first because you kind of, it's daunting, isn't it? You start and you think, where are we going to go from here? But I had a real feeling about where I did want to start the book, which is me at a Madonna concert, listening to her singing a song where the words are, I've lived so many lives and nobody knows me. And I remember sitting there at that concert with my then second husband thinking, oh, that's me. I'm just in the wrong life. I am completely in the wrong life. Nobody knows me. I don't know myself. And it was a horrible, horrible realization. And so I felt quite strongly that I wanted to have that as my starting place. And, and I use an anecdote also about years ago when I was in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, hitchhiking when I was in my 20s. And we ended up in the middle of nowhere, and this kind of little cart came along and a man stopped, and we were really in trouble because there was no Airbnbs, we didn't have mobile phones, we were going to have to sleep in a field with cows if we didn't get a lift. And the guy said,
no one can relate to that anymore. Like, I was exactly the same. I used to travel, and it was like, it was serious. Like, you had to have your papers, you had your list, you had to be, you were in trouble if you were out somewhere. There was no phones, there was no GPS.
Nothing. And we'd been dropped somewhere very remote, and we were saying, oh, we're going to this place, and the guy in this wonderful Irish accent went, oh geez, you don't want to be starting from here. And I was like, well, we are here. And so, one of my early messages of the book is that, you're often very unhappy. And in a way, you're having that mantra of, I don't want to start from here. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know where to take it from here. But of course, you have to start it from wherever you're at. And so I try to give some practical ways that, you can take those steps in the right direction again, reset that course, literally.
Yeah, let me ask you, because I like to always leave my viewers with just one lesson or one action step or one technique or something that they can do. Just, the minute we end this podcast, Empowercast, something that they could, do. Is there a practice that you have or something that you like to do that we could share with our viewers?
Many, and there are lots of practical exercises in the book. I think I'm going to give you two because they're both quick. One is, I think the most powerful question is, what else could this mean? So when you're having a bad day, somebody's just cut you up in the car, they've maybe given you a bad sign, and you're like, ooh, and you start to go into your monkey on your shoulder and you're reacting. What else could this mean? Maybe they got fired this morning, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe their car didn't start, maybe their child is ill. And so it removes you, and it removes that weird dialogue that you often have about, a co-worker has suddenly snapped your head off. What else could this mean? Maybe they've just had their mortgages defaulting, whatever. And that really diffuses the situation. My other one is, a life of wealth is 5 F's. So you have faith, fitness, friends, family, and finance. And where most lives go wrong, and where mine has gone unstuck and wrong, is when I've had the balance not balanced. So for all those years in London, a lot about finance. I realized I was sacrificing my family when I didn't see my son awake for a week. Friends, I was relatively good at keeping, but often it's like, oh, I'll make that call tomorrow, I'm too tired today. Fitness, I thought I was fit, but I was staying fit through some not great ways, like being bulimic. So I looked okay on the outside, but it wasn't really great on the inside. And faith, I drifted in and out sometimes. There were times I really felt quite cut off from my faith and that spirituality. And now every day, I will ask myself, have I done something to create that balance between those 5? I've also added a 6, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I realized when I did a course last year and we were talking about values that I hadn't added fun. I think it was a bit like, to use the Dan Savage thing, I thought it wasn't available to me. And I decided to start making fun available to me. So I do think if any time you start to feel adrift, you start to feel out of kilter, out of balance, think about those 5 F's. Are you every day pursuing those and getting some balance of all of them?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I do that with my kids. We talk about pizza pie and they, they'll be totally on video games or doing something. And I'll say, well, so that's one slice of the pizza. What are the other parts of your life that you really need to pay
Yeah.
attention to? And they are their fitness and, their friends and all that stuff. So I love that. I'm going to make them watch this video.
Yeah, and it's easy because you have 5 fingers and you've got the
Mhm.
5 F's. Or as I
Mhm.
said, that add the fun as well. So
Yeah, they're kids, so I'll replace finances with fun. But that's very interesting too because they have to understand finances. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So
yeah.
this book is primarily for women, or anyone can read the book?
Anyone can read the book. I mean, my go-to client was really my former self. I like to call her Burnt Out Barbara. So Burnt Out Barbara, was pretty much my blueprint, that she's probably got the big house, she's probably got the corporate job, but every night she's laying awake feeling like she's spinning plates on a pole. And at any
Hmm.
time they're all going to come crashing down her. She doesn't know how to get off the merry-go-round. It maybe looks good from the outside in, but it does not feel good from the inside out.
Right. I
And
love
they're
it.
called the squeezed middle. So women, in their 40s and their 50s, they're often high on the corporate ladder, and yet they've got kids of the school age or maybe university age. They've often got aged parents who they're looking after too. They're trying to still have passion and connection in their marriage. It is a very difficult situation. So when I was writing the book, Burnt Out Barbara was who I was talking to, but clearly it will talk to a wider audience.
Fantastic. And if clients want to work with you one-on-one, they can reach out to you via your website.
They can. There's a form on my website, or they can email me directly, which is thinkingros at gmail.com. Because 70% of my clients are worldwide via Skype, via Zoom actually. And next year I'm going to be doing a lot of like 90-day programs. I'm going to creating communities because people who work with me often want that journey to continue, which is why I add the coaching and the rapid transformational therapy. So yeah, I welcome them reaching out, and I welcome being able to help them.
Yeah, and although I've not been actually under your tutelage as far as had some therapy from you, but I have had therapy in that model, and I can say to everyone, it is an incredibly powerful, 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 life-changing model, and I truly, truly support it.
It's amazing, and I'm a trainer in it as well. So I'm going to Australia with Marissa in November for her first ever Australian course to train other people in the methodology. So yeah.
Fantastic. I am so proud of you and so impressed. And you have blossomed and you have totally, created your beautiful butterfly wings since we first met. And it's beautiful to see and enjoy. Your energy is just, it's electric. And I'm so, so impressed and proud of what you're doing. I want to share with my viewers, if you feel like this is something that connects with you, don't talk yourself out of it. Don't rationalize why, well, that doesn't make sense, or I don't even know her, or, I'm not that. Don't trust your instincts. If there's something in you that calls you to work with Roz, please reach out to her or reach out to me and I will connect you. We want you to be living an exceptional life. You deserve to live exceptional. Your
Yeah.
God-given right is to be exceptional in your own way. There is no cookie cutter. I say it all the time. It's not the cover of a magazine. Exceptional is how you define it and what matters to you. So live exceptional. Thank you, my darling. I loved hearing your story.
Thank you. And the greatest joy I get now, apart from obviously my love relationship, is freeing people in that way. So I want people to live exceptional too. And thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. We will stay connected. I hope to see you. I'm like thinking in my brain, like, how can I make it to Australia in November?
Yeah, it'd be amazing. It's
Thank
near.
you. I can't wait to put my arms around you and give you a hug and see you face to face. All my love and enjoyment. And thank you, everyone. Remember to live your exceptional. It's yours to enjoy. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bless you. Bye.